My name is Jonathan Gilliam, and this is The Experts. And welcome to the show. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. The truth has arrived, as always. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the two town halls that were happening today at the same time. The debate commission, whatever they do, didn't organize that well. And it seems as though that the two, ABC and NBC, just kind of ran with the fact that CNBC dropped the ball on this whole thing. As it turns out, nothing that surprises any of us. Their political editor, Steve Scully, who was going to moderate the debate, he lied. He lied about actually being hacked because he sent some kind of weird tweet about Trump to Scaramucci. What a loser that guy is. And so they ended up having these two town halls at the same time. I don't know what that, it was as if they didn't want these two, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, in the same room. And actually, I think it worked out great for the president, even though Savannah Guthrie from NBC, I didn't think anybody could be more smug than Kamala Harris when they were on television, but Savannah Guthrie pretty much wins the prize for smug and worthless questions. She basically, the majority of the town hall was her asking questions and then answering the questions for the president. And, but I will tell you, he really, this is where he shines in these type of events when he's in front of the people. And he pushed back on her stupid questions very hard. And I think he came out, from my point of view, looking really great, especially compared to what he said was a great debate the last time. I disagree with him on that. The debate that happened with he and Joe Biden was horrendous. And I think this was much better because it, look, you just can't put them. I don't think a debate between those two is it's going to actually amount to anything because Joe Biden is a liar. And people, even though he's a liar and he's been a waste of a Senate seat for over 40 years, or any political seat that he's held for over 40 years, it's just uncomfortable when the president starts condemning him or saying things to him, and then Joe Biden ends up calling him all these crazy names, and it would just turn into that debate. If you watched it, it wasn't good. It didn't help President Trump at all. Nobody that likes Trump was turned to Biden, and nobody that likes Biden was turned to Trump in that debate. But this one, I think if people listen to it with an open mind, they would see, first of all, how the president is truly treated by the media, because he's treated horribly. And they will also see how Joe Biden is treated with kid gloves. They didn't even ask him about Hunter Biden and this computer and the emails and all the pictures of him smoking crack and having sex with a prostitute. They didn't ask him about any of that stuff. I mean, in that computer, in those emails, and by the way, it is real. The FBI has had this computer for some time now. And I mean, this is, if it is a fact, well, let's put it this way. I was going to say it's a fact that if it's a fact that that Christopher Wray, that computer was there when Christopher Wray took over and he didn't do anything about it, he should be fired. But I know that it was there when Christopher Wray took over because it was there before Christopher Wray got there. So the fact is the FBI knew about this computer. They had the computer in their possession. They knew this stuff was on there, and they didn't do anything about it. And it's not just Hunter Biden stuff. I mean, there's emails back and forth between Hunter Biden and one of the people that's head of this Ukrainian company that he was, oil company, like Hunter Biden's a crack smoking nobody, but he was a paid employee by these individuals. $50,000 a month is what he was making. And there's emails that show where this executive with this company was thanking him for getting him together with his father. Then there's also emails in there talking about how he was requesting that China pay him $10 million to get a meeting with his dad. And then there was another email. This is the best one nobody's even talking about, is that he was talking to one of his daughters, or his daughter. Yes, Hunter Biden has offspring. It's horrific thinking about that. But he was telling her that I won't keep half your money like dad does. So I don't even see, that's the thing, that these are the things that FBI needs to be looking into if they get this computer. I mean, it's clearly showing that the vice president was using his position, his official position, for monetary gain. That is against the law. That would get any of us that work in the government put in jail, or at the minimum fired from the position that we hold. And if it was a certain amount of money, yes, we would go to jail for that. Probably be investigated for spying. And I mean, the Bureau would go hog wild on us. But as you can see, the FBI is a broken agency. And the fact that this computer sat there and nobody ever brought anything up. I mean, listen, folks, if there's any criminality and things that you do and you want to run for president, let's say somehow you had $1 billion like the president, and you said, I want to run for this, and you had a past, or there were, all of a sudden the FBI found out that that you're Joe Citizen, and they found out that you have some ties with some foreign country, they're going to look into you and they're going to investigate you heavily. Look what they did to Trump. But when it comes to establishment politicians, they don't do anything. They just look the other way, as though somehow this whole country has gotten to the point where they treat the election process of the president every 4 years as though we are selecting angels as Overwatch of the nation. That is not what it is. The president of the United States is the CEO of the country, basically. He's the executive branch. Make sure that that the laws are enforced. Make sure that the country is protected. There's other checks and balances for what the president exists for. But bottom line, trying to simplify this as much as possible, the president is there to run the country. We make them into celebrities. We make them into individuals in our minds as though they're going to fix everything. And every 4 years they come and then they go, and very few things get fixed. In fact, they often cause more problems than they fix. So we've gone down this weird road, and evidently the FBI and the political parties look the other way when somebody is completely criminal like Joe Biden and completely senile. Half the American people just look the other way. So it's kind of ridiculous when you look at how all this stuff and the two-tier legal system. If you're not rich and you're not a politician, then you are going to feel the brunt of the law enforcement in this country, of the justice system. But it's very apparent that if you're rich or if you're a politician, there is a different set of rules. I was talking to somebody in the FBI the other day about this. I never could understand this. When we were going through the academy, and they talked about Washington, D.C., and how the Secret Service has this, the FBI has this. They have special liaisons to Congress and the Senate and the White House, of course. Why is that? Why aren't those people treated like anyone else? Why are these individuals allowed to do insider trading, for instance? They're just going to get a letter of censure. You see the stuff that was happening earlier this year, where a couple of Republicans and a Democrat were caught basically doing insider trading. Didn't it it just went away? You haven't really heard anything about it. In fact, they came back and cleared two of them, even though if you look into it, it's insider trading. You look at Nancy Pelosi. You look at so many of the Democrats, so many of the Republicans. They sit in these in these committees, And some of these committees, like the finance committee and so on and so forth, they get inside. They have behind closed doors meetings with CEOs of companies, not just because Twitter did this or Facebook did that. They sit back there, they learn stuff, and then they go trade stocks based on that information that nobody else has. And up until a couple of years ago, there was no punishment for that whatsoever. Still, there's no real punishment, as you see. So I don't know how we got to this point, but I tweeted out, this is how misguided everyone is. I tweeted out a little while ago. If you know, I do this show late at night. It's 4 o'clock in the morning right now. And I tweeted out a little while ago that the only way that a civil war in this nation can be avoided, basically, is if the constitutionalists in this nation overthrow the GOP. And what do you think that occurred? What do you think came back after I tweet that out? Well, there's people are saying that, no, what's wrong with you? Obviously, you meant the DNC. Well, no, I meant the GOP, because the reality is the GOP is the only hope we have for saving Washington, D.C., and really the rest of the country, because as I've said numerous times on this show, the DNC and the RNC are private organizations. They are not government organizations. They are not public organizations. They are private organizations. And whereas the Democrat Party has their evil tentacles in everything that they do, all the way down to the street level. They're very active, very organized. They will rent buses to get people either to the voting booth or to a rally. They will pack rallies. They pay people. And they have classes. They basically conscript the any type of sense from college students and high school students, because they've integrated themselves in teacher unions. They have, from an enemy standpoint, done an amazing job. The GOP has done nothing. There is no organization of the conservatives or the constitutionalists in this country. There's no ground level operations that you go to a rally, like a small rally. I went to Latinos for Trump in Arizona. I've been to some other stuff around, but Trump was actually there. I was 3 rows into it. And I watched, it was right up there with all the establishment people from Arizona. There was no association with the rest of the people. If you look back behind me, all the people that were there, and that was a smaller group. These people isolate themselves. They do not have anything to do with the people. They say they're representatives of the people. They're not representing the people. Most of them are conservative by name, but they're wishy-washy. And as Wolf Blitzer in his argument with Nancy Pelosi was, don't make something wrong because you're unwilling to compromise on what's right, basically, is what he was saying. I don't believe in that. You find out a way to fix something, and then you go that direction. And this is what's crazy about politics and about establishment people, is that it's not that they think that there's a better way. They just think that way is not going to get their ideology or themselves put up on a pedestal. So really, it's not about fixing or making things better. It's about making their ideology or themselves better and more enhanced monetarily or with power. That's all it's about. So the reason I say the only hope that we have from a civil war is overthrowing the GOP with true conservatives or true constitutionalists, or originalists, as some people call them. The reason that's important is because the GOP already has the hand of all the conservatives in this country, but they don't do anything to organize them. Like I was saying, you go to one of these events, and it's not like it's the people there. You go to a Democrat event, and it's sick, but they're all organized. They treat each other with all kinds of respect. Yes, they have their establishment as well, but overall, the Democrats are in relation with the average person who is a leftist. The GOP just has no relationship with the average Joe or Jane who is a constitutionalist or a conservative or an originalist. They don't have anything really to do with them except to get their vote. And we have to be organized. And right now there's no platform for us to be organized. So I can't scream it loud enough. We don't need a new party. Like the Tea Party was a good example. You make a new party, it's going to be infiltrated by these establishments, and they're just going to drive it straight into the ground. Just like if the mob comes into a company, they will take everything they can from it while they drive it straight into the ground. That's what the GOP would do to any new conservative party. I mean, they've been around for over 100 years. Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president. Democrat Party's been around even longer. I mean, that's how we got racism or slaves. And I wouldn't say that's how we got racism, but that's how we got slaves. And that's how we got the KKK and who fought against the getting rid of slavery in the United States. It was the Democrats. They've been around for that long. You're not going to fix. Somebody said, no, we have to overthrow the Democrat Party on Twitter. And to my response, I was like, you're not going to do that. You are not going to overthrow the Democrat Party, because here's the problem. Many, I'm talking millions here, millions of Democrats in this country, if you talk to them, you would see that, okay, they're not as far left or radical, even though it's I don't like using the word radical, because you're kind of making it sound like that socialists and Marxists and communists are so much worse. They're kind of crazy compared to the regular Democrats. That's not true. But what occurs is that old Stanley Milgram experiment where I talked about, where they're just, the majority of people who make up the Democrat Party are people who will support Marxism or communism or socialism, or they will make excuses for it, right? Like a mom who has a kid who's a drug dealer, but yet in her brain, he's just a good kid. And so, or maybe they're into something as well. So they just keep justifying what this kid does until they get caught. And then they say to the police, that's my baby. He would never do anything. He's not guilty. Well, he is guilty. He's a drug dealer, but you create this illusion in your brain that he's a good kid when he's really a drug dealer. And that's the way it is with the majority of Democrats. And we're talking millions of people here, folks. And then the rest of them just have such a hatred. A lot of atheists, a lot of people who had terrible families growing up, or parents that were left, or they've just been indoctrinated to the nth degree by the education system. And they just hate conservatism. They hate Jesus. They hate the Constitution and the thought of the founding fathers. And they hate the GOP so bad that they will do whatever they can to bring it down. All of it. So that's what makes up the Democrat Party. You're not going to overthrow that. It is deep. And I do believe that demonic possession is thriving throughout the Democrat Party. You look at the Republican Party, the GOP, it is full. It's a lot. Listen, I've been to so many of these things. It is like when I worked for, I was head of security for a very famous country music singer, and I went on tour with him for the summer. And although this individual didn't have groupies per se that hung out, he's a good family man, but the people are so caught up in the stardom of this individual and the band that comes up there, that they just, oh my gosh, they're, I love their music. They're great people, this and that. They don't know these people. They were great people, but they don't know these people. They don't know them. They don't know how who they really are, but they create this image of who the person is on stage. And, but the person on stage doesn't want to have anything to do with the majority of those people. I work for lots of celebrities, and this is the way it is, because look, there's some good celebrities out there. Not all of them are bad. The majority of them are worthless. But they can't entertain everybody all the time that wants to get close to them, nor do they care. But see, should be opposite of the way it is for politicians. They should be striving to talk to everyone that they can, because that's why they're in Washington, D.C. That's why they're at your capital in your state. That's why they're in politics in the city where you live. because they are your representative. They are running things on your behalf, not because they're, the authority parent figure and you're a child, which is the way you're treated by the GOP. And so when I say that the GOP should be overthrown by constitutionalists, it should be taken over and the establishment should be pushed out along with their groupies and all this whole organization in the states that basically have they're the worst enemy of President Trump, not the left. I don't think that the president's going to have, he's not going to win the left votes, but he's not going to lose people to the left. But President Trump is not an establishment person. And when he came in, the establishment hated him, and they've never done anything to support him. Look at Ben Sasse. You look at this phone call that he had, and I'm not even going to play it. You can go look it up if you want. But the dude is worthless and just criticizes, puts down the president, says that he kisses up to dictators, saying that he is bad for evangelicals. I hate that word evangelical, by the way. We're Christians, okay? Say it what it is. And he's just a nasty waste of a Senate seat with no experience in really anything. But he's an establishment member handpicked by the GOP. And rallies, while everybody's trying to rally for the president, he will rally against the president and literally step in the way. Just like Flake. What a name, too. That guy really is a flake. Glad he's gone. Like McCain. Worthless. So, like McSally in Arizona. Worthless. She's just an establishment pick. That's all she is. And while she's up there, spouting off and saying whatever she's going to say to try to get elected. The same thing with the governor of Arizona, who's a Republican, sort of. I mean, no, he's a Republican establishment guy. That's how he got the job. They have no relationship with the people. And they are, by and large, not in line with the intent of the founding fathers, which is what they claim to be, which is what the GOP really stands for. That's who votes for the GOP, are people who are in line of thinking with the founding fathers. So if we don't take over the GOP from the establishment and rid these pompous, it's just this pompous clique of non-conservative conservatives, if we don't rid the GOP of that, we will never take control of this political train that is out of control and is being hijacked by the left. We won't. There's no way that we'll be able to do it. We will go to a civil war, and it will be deadly. And I'm here to tell you, folks, if you think that the DOD will just remain neutral, well, you're wrong, because there's enough generals that are leftists and that would support a leftist uprising or a leftist movement to put down an uprising of conservatives. This is a problem. And these are all real things that are occurring, along with all the other stuff with social media and that we're seeing in the news. Now, that's all I'm going to cover on the two town halls, except for the fact that I can't say this enough, that Savannah Guthrie did the most horrible job. She spent the majority of time asking her questions and then answering her own questions when she didn't like what the president said. And then you go over to ABC and Joe Biden, it's just all rehearsed, all scripted, and fake, like everything else that George Stephanopoulos leads or Joe Biden participates in. With the president, it was raw. And you could tell he was pushing back on her nastiness big time. He did not take anything from her, and I absolutely love that. And the woman that was in the red mask over the president's left shoulder was fantastic. She was agreeing with it. It was like they had a remote on her head and my head at the same time. Every time the president would say something and I agreed with it, she'd be back there nodding her head. I loved it. In fact, I got quoted by the New York Post and my tweet got quoted because I said that. I said, I'm becoming a huge fan of her and her agreements when she nods her head. So that's about it with the town halls. I do think the president shines, and I would suggest that one thing that he could do is answer the questions. He did play a little political patty cake with a couple of questions. I would just love to see him answer the questions and talk to the American people. Like I said before about the debates, forget about that moderator. I mean, I love the way he hammered her. That's great. But when the people are asking the questions, just answer the question. You don't have to beat around the bush. I mean, the people know what you've done. We want to hear your answer to that. Not because we're going to be judgmental. I mean, we are going to hold you to the fire, but I want to hear what you want to do, Mr. President. So go ahead and answer the question. Don't worry about the politics. Nobody's not going to vote for you that's going to vote for you. I mean, unless you came out there high as Hunter Biden, which is not going to happen. But here's the other thing I want to say real quick is that this whole thing about Twitter and the New York Post and the Hunter Biden story, it is doing a great disservice to the overall aspect and serious issue that's going on with social media. Now, as I talked about in the past couple actually shows, is that my account was totally taken down by Instagram just on a whim. And then Facebook, I thought it was because I was trying to change my password, and all of a sudden my account just locked, and I can't get in on any of the devices that I use. And it is they throw these questions up. They say, if you can identify 4 things that you have posted in the past 3 months. Okay, if you post as much as I do, that's going to be difficult. But I've managed several times to pick 4 things that I have posted. I know for 100% fact that those things I posted, and still it will not let me into my account. So, and there's other things that you can do that I've done, no response whatsoever. I've done it multiple times, and Facebook will not respond. So I've been pretty much over 50,000 people. Many of those people I hadn't seen in over 30 years from high school, where I grew up. They're all on there, and if Facebook doesn't let me back in, I will lose contact with all those people. Probably never to talk to them again, before I get old and die. And that is, to me, that shows you how far social media has come. I mean, we do communicate with the telephone still, but mainly cell phone and text. Text more than anything, rather than calls. I do more text than I do phone calls. Email, we still use email to an extent. And social media. Either putting our opinions, our pictures up there, finding people that we didn't know before, sometimes direct messaging. That is the way we communicate in this nation and really around the world more than anything else. And for you to be canceled off of that for political reasons 30 days before an election, this is as close to a communist type of takeover as anything else I've ever seen. And this nation should not work like that. They broke up in the 80s. They broke up the telephone companies. They were too big. Ma Bell was too big. They broke it up. It survived. They did fantastic. It's lowered prices. It's, brought technology forward. I think that these social media platforms should be broken up. And I think the individuals who have done this stuff should be charged with, there's got to be, it's never going to happen. I say they should. The FBI that we know now will never do that. It's not going to do that. The FCC won't do that. There is basically no power in Congress or the Senate and their subpoenas. There's basically no power. They're not going to be able to do anything. How many people have you ever heard of being put in jail because of something they did and the Senate found out in their investigations? It's really worthless political stage work so that to get your vote. That's all that is. So this thing with Twitter blocking the New York Post story has taken center stage. And it is a big deal. It's censorship of the media, which I think we give too much recognition with the media. Same thing with the politicians. We make them look like celebrities. We've made the media into something as though the founding fathers were saying your freedom of speech individually and is big deal, but freedom of the press is an even bigger deal. But it didn't say freedom of the media. It's freedom of the press, so that you can there's a printing press. So you're free to say what you want, and you're free to disseminate that information how you want. It was not talking about the companies that they call media, that we call media now. That term came about long after the founding fathers were gone. So while everybody's concentrating on this issue with Twitter and Jack and the New York Post and how they pulled that story down, all of these other people that are not famous, I mean, I have a blue check mark, but I wouldn't say that I'm famous. All these other people that are conservative are having their profiles destroyed because they're conservative. That's the only reason. They're just losing all this contact with all of these people that they had, regardless of their free speech. These connections that they had, the relationships that they built over these, gone, never to come back. So that is the real story. That and the fact that the voters, which to me is the most important aspect of this entire thing, the voters' voice is being stifled, and nobody's talking about that in the media. They're only talking about Twitter and Jack and the New York Post. And I think that's a real problem because I don't know if that's by design. I've even said that I think, I'm highly critical on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn of the GOP because of everything I explained earlier in the show. And sometimes, it used to, you would say, well, I know it's conspiratorial, but what is not possible now, right? It could be possible that these conservatives that are being yanked because of Facebook's relationship with establishment GOP. It could be. Because if you criticize him or if you support Trump, there are people in the GOP, never Trumpers, that want you canceled. And to be honest with you, Twitter has no relationship that I know of with the GOP. Facebook does. So that's just an interesting thought. And I wonder if that might be the case. Now, yes, I'm going to throw a little commercial in here, sort of. ConnectZing.com. I am I've been brought on by Drago, who was in the second episode of this show, The Experts, and he was talking about his interview. Amazing story. He was, his mom, I'm just going to go over it real quick. His mom was a freedom fighter against the socialist government in Poland when they were socialist. And then Drago, of course, fell right in line with his mom, and he had a typewriter, and he got found out, and he went to a gulag, a re-education prison, basically. At one night in Poland, the government shut down all the phones, and sound familiar? Shut down all the phones at midnight, and then began arresting people, and eventually arrested over 60,000 people. Drago was one of those individuals. He eventually got out after a couple of years. A couple of years later, he came to the United States, became an American citizen, and then enlisted in the Navy and became a SEAL and was a SEAL for 20 years and now is a computer programmer. He and his wife, Rachel, who is an Air Force Academy graduate, they developed ConnectZing and brought me on board as an advisor, and because they know what my voice is out there when it comes to free speech and freedom. They brought me on board because of my resume, and we are pushing this forward. We are getting people to invest in this. There's going to be advancements in it. A lot of people that have joined now already, they see the potential in ConnectZing, and it is a Facebook killer. It's a Twitter killer. There's going to be a lot more stuff that comes, and we're ironing out all the little details with ConnectZing. But trust me, it's going to be a home run. I know tech people who have seen it, and they were like, man, the fact that this is a working platform right now and it's much easier to use than Parler is amazing. So I want you to check it out. I want you to be patient if you sign up. There are going to be some glitches here and there, but here's what we can promise you. You're not going to get deleted from ConnectZing. In fact, we're actually designing a way that if somebody is a troll and they are constantly, and they get enough notices of trolling, they will be branded with the scarlet T, and then they will be known as a troll, and they'll be limited in the things that they can do. That is our goal, is not to even get rid of them, but so that you can police them. And then ultimately, unless somebody is threatening or doing something crazy or doing whatever, those people would definitely get deleted. That has nothing to do with freedom of speech. It's danger. But ultimately, ConnectZing, the thing that's going to be different is you sign up for ConnectZing and you build your communication platform on there. That's yours. You're not going to go anywhere. You're going to be there. And now that we see what's occurring, it's not so much that ConnectZing is going to be conservative, but in a way it is conservative, because you know what conservative is? It's conservative is allowing you to have your freedom. So it is conservative in that way. It's not going to tell you how you have to think or what you can and can't say. It's not going to tell you how you should lean politically. ConnectZing is a platform for you to communicate, to build relationships, and to carry out your communications with the people you love about the things that you feel without any harassment and without any fear that if you say something that somebody doesn't agree with politically, that you're going to be canceled along with all your contacts. That will not happen on ConnectZing. So go check it out. Again, if you follow me on there, you can request to connect with me. And then if you have issues, something that you see, or you have a suggestion, write me. Connect with Drago, write him. Connect with Rachel, connect with her, tell her. And if it's something that we can apply to the program, we will do that. That is the great thing about ConnectZing, and it's going to go places. Trust me, folks. It's already, the ball is starting to roll. And yeah, this is kind of a commercial for ConnectZing because I want you to go over there. But what I want you to realize is that I'm involved with this because I see what's happening. There right now, social media, whether they realize it or not, these leftist platforms, they have driven the American people, just like the Democrat Party, to become more unified. Just like the stuff I was talking about at the beginning of this show. It's very important that we become unified. And what is occurring because of their actions is we are becoming more unified in our vision of what is right and what's wrong and what's actually happening. And that's what we're striving in ConnectZing to allow you to defeat and to be free in the way you communicate your opinions that you hold and the people that you care about. We're not going to break those bonds. ConnectZing.com. Go check it out. The other thing I want to tell you is my book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. There's never been a time where it's more important than that you check that out because it shows you how attackers look at you. And if you think that the Democrat Party or these establishment rhinos or these leftists that are assaulting cities, if you think that they're not developing target packages on you, on the cities, and looking for vulnerabilities to exploit avenues of approach, you're kidding yourself. This book was not written with politics in mind. It was written to show you how attackers look at you and how they will pick the thing that they want to go after, that critical asset. They will pick the critical area that they can exploit in the critical time and the vulnerabilities they can utilize to get to that criticality and the avenue of approach. And it shows you how to look at yourself from that same perspective and literally target yourself, and then turn around and build better defenses. There's nothing else out there like it. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, which is a children's book with pictures with safety and awareness and communication lessons built into the pictures. And then you, the parent or the teacher, because you can also be used with learning disabled children, you go to teamlittlebigs.com and you get the lesson plans, and then you teach your children through those lesson plans. So I'm here, folks, doing this podcast, writing these books, working with Connect Zing, because I'm a servant of freedom. I'm not doing this stuff. I'm certainly not getting rich from it. It'd be great to get rich one day off of it. But the goal here is not wealth. The goal here is freedom. Somebody has to defend it. Somebody has to stand up for it. My mom raised me to be this way. The country requested that I be this way, and God demanded it, and I have answered the call. That's why I do this stuff. That's why I come on here and I do this podcast, and I try to not just talk about the news. I try to look beyond that. And that's what I'm trying to help you do. Look beyond the news. I get philosophical. Why? Because what is happening isn't just left and right, conservative, liberal. It's not just about politics. It's not just about media and headlines. So you can read it and say, oh, I don't like that, or I knew that, I knew that person was bad or that person's good. It's about the reality of the spiritual warfare that's going on in this nation, the fact that there are evil people that are here that are ruining things. There is a two-tier justice system. There's all these things that you need to be able to see, and you need to be woken up to it, because I can't fight this alone. You need to be a part of this. That's what this is all about. I think that's all I wanted to talk about today. The news, basically, when I looked at, of course, I always go to Drudge Report, and it's kind of dull. It's the same stuff, same lies as always. If you read the Drudge Report, you would think that the president is imploding, that he has no chance of winning. Not true. They make it look like on Drudge Report, because Drudge is an aggregate of all these different news outlets. They make it sound like Giuliani completely lied about the Hunter Biden computer. So I can look at these headlines and see the reality of what's actually occurring. And sometimes you can see some things that are kind of scary, like they keep talking about AI and robots and how they're going to be used in war. And that does worry me a little bit, because although I don't think that we're going to have a Terminator issue, I can see now they're using drones, and they can use swarms of drones. China is developing this technology. DARPA has worked on this technology, and they can use drones in a swarm technology to do all kinds of hideous, terrible things to our enemy. But as you can see, there are people in government that think you and I are the enemy, and that worries me. That worries me greatly. So those things do jump out at you when you look at this, because they love to talk about this stuff on the left. They love to talk about it. So I think that's where I'm going to call the show for the day. What I want you to focus on as you walk around today, or you work, you're driving down the road, especially if you're out there and you are in media, or you're a politician and you're an honest politician, I want you to realize that while you're so focused on Twitter and what happened to the New York Post, and it's a big deal with the Hunter Biden story, what is happening on the other side of the spectrum with Facebook and Instagram and even Twitter is that normal people, conservatives, they are getting canceled. They are losing track with their loved ones. Their voice is being stifled 30 days before an election, all because of the leftists. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace, and I'm out of here.